People who support historical justice for Crimea believe that the annexation fixed the mistake by which the culturally and ethnically Russian peninsula was torn away from its home country. This kind of belief shows a lack of understanding of the history of the region. I'm Lina from Crimea. Welcome to the video where I will explain how and when Russians appeared in Crimea and whether they are its indigenous people. This may be shocking news for some of you, but Russians are not and never were indigenous to Crimea. The history of their rule in Crimea comes up to a little over 2 centuries, while the real indigenous peoples are the Crimean Tatars, Krimchaks and the Karaites. These peoples were formed in Crimea over centuries and peacefully coexisted for over 300 years since the 15th century in a strong independent state, the Crimean Khanate.
As for Russians, by the time the Crimean Khanate appeared on the map, the Muscovite state ruled by the Golden Horde was only as large as the modern Moscow Oblast and its vicinities. Moscow paid tribute to the Crimean Khanate as the heir to the Golden Horde for 220 years. Whenever they refused, the Crimean Tatars raided and burned Moscow. This was the kind of relationship Crimea and Moscow had before 1700, and nowadays Russians would really like to forget about it.
By the end of the 18th century, Russia gained strength and was actively conquering neighboring states, destroying and assimilating local populations and stretching the definition of Russia in the process. Forget about some random regions of the north and the far east where there are tens of thousands square kilometers where no one wants to live to this day. Compared to that, Crimea is a better vacation spot and a geopolitically important peninsula. As soon as Russia got enough political weight and physical strength to fight, it started looking for a recipe for capturing Crimea to the sound of approving cheers from useful idiots and making everyone believe that Crimea has always been Russian. Here is how it goes. Occupy the whole territory of another state. Ask 3/4 of indigenous population to get out of Crimea by taking away their rights, prohibiting their culture and stealing their land. Rename main cities in the Greek style to make it look like Greeks had been living there. Tell everyone that Crimean Tatars got to Crimea with their Golden Horde and live there as guests. Bring in Russian settlers, assimilate the locals, and tell everyone that Russians have always been there. Execute the intellectual elite, deport the entire nation who make up about 20–25% of the population at this point. Kill 1/3 of them on the way to the middle of nowhere. To convince everyone that there were never any Crimean Tatars, burn all the books and any reminders of Crimean Tatars. Prohibit the name Crimean Tatars for the next 50 years and change all the toponyms to Soviet bullshit. And repeat the step where you bring in Russian settlers. After occupying Crimea as a territory of a different country, ask part of local population to get out, keep the rest at gunpoint or threaten with imprisonment. Keep destroying historical monuments to Crimea without Russia and tell everyone that Crimeans are pissing themselves out of happiness. Turn everyone who disagrees into political prisoners, harass their families, kidnap political activists and journalists. Just do everything to make sure that there are less and less of them every year. Actually, just do whatever you can think of. You've got nuclear weapons, no one's going to do shit. Use previously burned Russians to create a pretty picture for TV and Western media and bring in more Russians! Congratulations! You've created Russian Crimea. The indigenous population is almost all gone. You wanted the sea, you got the sea. As a bonus, useful idiots abroad spread myths you've created earlier. Seriously? This is a recipe Russians used to bring the Russian world into the land of my ancestors. If you want to argue by telling me that 200 years is enough to consider Crimea historically Russian, I've got a question for you. What else did Russia control in 1783? Here is the answer: territory of modern Finland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, Ukraine, Belarus and Kazakhstan. Do you think it would be fair for everyone to throw a couple of square kilometers to poor old Mother Russia for the sake of historical justice? Crimea has been under occupation of Russia for less time than the entirety of Estonia, but I don't see many useful idiots talking about how Estonia is rightful Russian territory. By the time of the first annexation of Crimea by Russia, it had already incorporated the territories of other indigenous populations. As of right now, these people have been assimilated, eliminated, or assimilated and currently being eliminated. For example, in this infographic, it is evident that Russia predominantly deploys a representative of small ethnic groups of those nations that the Russian Empire assimilated during its expansion. Quite convenient, isn't it? Likewise, in Crimea, Russia specifically selects Crimean Tatar men for mobilization in the hope that they will die in the war. I mean, are you trying to tell me that these people are Russians? Do they look like they wanna baptize their children in the Russian Orthodox Church? Or maybe these people look like they wanna name their children Ivan or Masha? The Russian Empire is in fact an empire. It's not a nation state that opens the eyes of uninformed Russians abroad to their roots by scaling its territory. It kills and assimilates everyone it conquers, not giving anything good in return. This empire came to Crimea a little over 2 centuries ago. The history of Crimean Tatars started much earlier, and it's not over yet. I think it's important to know that the indigenous population of Crimea is not ancient history like the Sumerians or Scythians. Crimean Tatars still exist. Despite Russians' effort to assimilate us and erase us from the history, we still have our own language understood by most Turkic nations. Our own religion, Islam, even though Russia is trying to deface the image of Islam before the world by calling Crimean Tatars terrorists. And we also have our own culture, which is known worldwide and is protected by UNESCO. The Crimean Tatars built their own state in the early modern period, which became the center of Islamic civilization in Europe. We also created the first Islamic democratic republic in the world, the Crimean Democratic Republic. It lasted from 1917 to 1918 and was a progressive state not only by the standards of the Muslim world, but also the entirety of Europe circa World War I. We still live on our own land, even though Russia has been putting a lot of effort into kicking us out. The victims of the deportation of 1944 live to this day. These people were able to come back home and they passed down their knowledge, even though Russia is actively trying to erase the memory of Crimea without a tricolored flag. We are still fighting for our survival against the enemy of literally every country in Eastern Europe, but we do need support and we need to be heard in free democratic countries because Russia is trying to erase the memory of my people. Thank you for watching. Please spread the truth about Russian crimes in Crimea. I will add some information about this in the description. I also kindly ask you to support Ukrainian armed forces through donations to Ukrainian verified funds and volunteers. You can also support my channel by contributing a few dollars to my Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal. Stay tuned to learn more about Crimea and bye!